Yeah. So the theme of what I like of what we're talking about right now is just getting these scenarios walked through, in advance. Think through these things. Think through how, as a TFO, you're going to set a perimeter. Think through how, as a TFO, you're going to communicate with inbound agencies that you don't normally work with. Think about how, if you have to transport an officer, how that's going to happen, what the configuration of your helicopter is going to look like, and how to efficiently do that. Do you have a partnership with your local fire departments where you're going to be able to put a medic in the back of your ship?
Yes.
Or do you not? How are you going to secure the scene around the helicopter so you don't have officers and deputies walking into the tail rotor?
Maybe
these are all
maybe
things
you
that
let that paramedic decide. The paramedic looks at him real quick and says, "Hey, we can load you and the victim up right now in this bird. Well, is that a good thing?" And if he says yes, you do it. Or he says, "No. We're going to ground transport him. I need to be on this guy, and I need." They're the experts. But I think that's a really good point, John. That having that paramedic involved in that decision might be really smart. Now, sometimes that's unavailable. There might still be lead flying. There's still shots being fired and there's no paramedic around. You might have to make the decision. You got to be ready for that too. But getting them involved in that decision might be something to discuss, certainly, and say, hey, this might be the guy that the person that makes that choice.
Yep. And once you've thought through those scenarios and you've identified things that are actionable, make an effort to go do those things. Like Jeff said, don't just sit around and talk about it. Take some practice runs with your SWAT guys. Drag them in a helicopter with their gear on. See what that looks like when you pull them in.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Going back to communications, in addition to like making sure you have all these frequencies in your radio, systems, we were very good about making sure we had, San Bernardino County frequencies and all the CHP frequencies. Because and for a while we didn't have all the San Bernardino frequencies, but we had the CHP frequencies. And, that was always, there was times where we might be in San Bernardino. We might not be able to talk to the cops there, but we were able to talk to the highway patrol and get them on stuff that, we needed help with. And then, talk to your communication centers, because a lot of times even they are not always going to be in the know as to like, okay, hey, if we have this major incident go down, like what's our communications plan? When we switched over to the 800 megahertz digital system, it's a countywide system, and they had like the red and the blue channels, which were basically reserved for critical incidents. But there was a lot of confusion amongst the different communication centers as to who was in charge of that, who made the call to go to those, frequencies. And, we were under the impression that we were going to use it like Orange County does, where, if you have a pursuit, everybody goes to the, red channel or whatever. And then, everyone can monitor that, talk on it. And we all had our, agency specific call signs and stuff that, so that dispatchers knew who was who and all that. But a couple of times we had some major incidents or critical incidents that, we suggested like, hey, let's go to the red channel. And what we found out was that a lot of our street cops didn't know that they had the red channel on their radios. They didn't know how to get to it, which is really, it was just turn the knob all the way to the end, and that's going to be the red channel. But so have those, get those systems kind of ironed out ahead of time. Make sure that your street cops know how to get to those frequencies that, everybody can talk on. Make sure that the dispatch centers know, hey, what's the protocol for using these and when, because a couple times, like as the air crew, we suggested like, hey, let's go to this channel. And it caused some confusion because, the dispatchers or the officers didn't know exactly what we were trying to do or why or whatever. So it's really, you would think that we'd have these things kind of ironed out ahead of time, but I think everybody kind of gets into that, lulled into the, hey, this is the way we do things and this is the way we do it all the time. And then when you have these, critical situations that don't always come up, when they do, it's another one of those things that, that's one less stressor that we have, right? If we can get everybody onto the same channel and all talking to each other, we've now eliminated one of those, C's, right? The big one, the communication C. And so it's something to really consider. We had a group of, it was mostly dispatchers, but they had these meetings, and we were invited to come up one time for whatever the reason was. And it was all the different dispatch centers in the county were all together having a meeting, and for whatever reason, we ended up being there. And I had no idea that they had these meetings, and they would debrief certain, incidents that they had, worked and some of the issues that came up. And I thought, wow, this is a great, meeting to bring up this red channel stuff. And when I brought it up, everybody was kind of staring at me like, we don't have an answer. We don't know when we're supposed to use this stuff. And so that kind of, triggered it to start having those discussions.